welcome back to my YouTube channel, Tim's Vlog Spots. And in the past couple of days, we've been reading The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. And now we're on chapter 3 called Trapped. Let's get a recap on the previous two chapters that we've been reading on my YouTube channel. So the past two chapters is in the beginning is that the family is on a vacation and they in California. They went through Nevada and they went onto the Mountain Views Highway and they got to this very old hotel room. They got there, the manager or somebody at the front desk told them that they got a room. I think it's a room with twin beds in the corner. And when they got there, they looked around and they didn't know if they liked the hotel room because it was old and looked like it had mice in it, and they didn't want to have to go and drive to another hotel room on the mountain highway during holidays. So they stayed there, and then the people said that the hotel room was up to date and clean and sanitized and everything. There will be no mice or mouse, stuff like that. In chapter 2, the boy was playing on his bed with his cars. He had like a little motorcycle, a little sports car. He had like a little sedan, and he had like an ambulance, and all those cars. And he was playing on the striped bed because his bed was striped, so he was playing like he was on the highway. And he was eating apple core that he packed away in his suitcase, and then he got done with the apple core and put it on his side table. And then his mom called him to get ready for dinner, and so he rushed over to get ready, and his mom put the apple in the waste basket, because she didn't want no mice or mouse to get the food and everything like that. So she dropped it into the metal waste basket. As they left for dinner, there was this little mouse named Ralph, and his mom told him not to go near like the cars or anything like that, but he wouldn't listen. He's that type of mouse that wants to explore and figure out what's going on. So he found this motorcycle on top of the bed that was on top of this bedspread that had stripes, and he was looking at it, and he thinks that this motorcycle's not going to go anywhere or move because he thinks it's a good toy model and all that. And he got scared because the phone rang, and it rang only half rang, and he got so scared that he got trapped in the wastebasket because the phone rang, and he got scared, and he jumped off the bed, and now he's in the wastebasket. So that was what was going on in book one, in chapter one, chapter two. So let's get together. Let's get together and find out what's going on more with Ralph in chapter three, in the Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. Let's get to chapter three. There's chapter three. It's called Trapped. Even though Ralph woke up feeling sick and dizzy, his first thought was of the motorcycle. He hoped it was not broken. He sat there at the bottom of the wastebasket until the whiffly feeling in his head stopped, and he was able, slowly and carefully, to stand up. He stretched each aching muscle and felt each of his to four legs to make certain it was not broken. When Ralph was sure that he was battered, but in fact intact, he examined the motorcycle. He set it upright and rolled it backwards and forward to make sure the wheels still worked. One handlebar was bent, and some of the paint was chipped off the rear fender, but everything else seemed all right. Ralph hoped so, but there was no way he could find out until he figured out how to start the engine. Now he ached too much even to try. Wearily, Ralph dragged himself over to the wall of the metal prison and sat down beside the apple core to rest his aching body. He leaned back against the side of the waste paper basket, closed his eyes, and thought about his Uncle Victor. Poor, nearsighted Uncle Victor. He too had landed in a metal waste paper basket. Jumping there quickly by mistake, unable to climb the side, he had been trapped until the man came and examined him out with the trash. No one knew for sure what had happened to Uncle Victor, but it was known that trash in the hotel was emptied into an incinerator. Ralph felt sad and remorseful thinking about his Uncle Victor getting dumped out with the trash. His mother had been right. After all, his poor mother gathered crumbs for his little brother and sister, while he selfishly moused up that he was sat trapped in a metal prison, from which the only escape was to be thrown away like an old gun wrapper. Ralph thought sadly of his comfort home in the mouse hole. It was a good home, untidy but comfortable. The children the children who stay in room 215 usually leave a good supply of crumbs behind, and there was always water from the shirt hung to drip dry beside the waste bin. It should have been enough. He should have been content to stay home without venturing out into the world looking for speed and excitement. Outside in the hall, Ralph heard footsteps and met the bellboy saying those new people in 215 and 216, somehow they got the idea there are mice in the hotel. I just opened the window and told them the manager wouldn't stand for it. Ralph heard a delightful laugh from the second floor maid, a college girl who was working for the summer season. Mice are adorable, but just the same, I hope I never find any in my room. I'm afraid of them. There was two kinds of employees at the Mountain View Inn. The regulars, regular, none of them young, and the summer help, who were college students working during their tourist season. If you don't like mice, you better stay away from the knothole. If you don't like mice, you better stay away from the knothole under the window in room 215, advised Matt. The sound of voices so clear made Ralph more eager than ever to escape. No, he shouted, his voice echoing in the metal chamber. I won't have it. I am too young to be dumped out with the trash. In spite of his aches, he jumped to his feet, ran across the wastebasket floor, and leaped against the wall, only to fall back in a sorry heap. He rose back off and tried again. There he was on the floor of the wastebasket a second time. It was useless, utterly useless. He didn't have the strength to tip over the wastebasket. Ralph was not a mouse to give up easily. He considered his problem a moment before he rolled the motorcycle over to the wall of the wastebasket. Then he seized the apple core by the stem and dragged it over to the motorcycle. By putting his shoulders under the stem end, he imagined to raise the core until it was standing on his blossom end. But when he put his front paw round it and tried to lift it, he found he could not. The core was too heavy to lift up onto the seat of the motorcycle. Ralph was disappointed, but when he stopped to think it over, he saw that even if he could manage to get the apple core on top of the motorcycle, it still would not be high enough to allow him to climb out of the wastebasket. Bruised and defeated, Ralph dropped the core and decided that he might as well be thrown out with the trash on a full stomach as an empty one. He took a bite of the apple and felt a little better. It was the best food he had ever eaten for several days. Juicy and full of flavor, much better than the dump Zackback crumbs the last guest had left behind. He took several more bites and settled down into a heaping meal, saving the seeds for dessert. Two ants scouted appeared on the rim of the wastebasket. Go away, said Ralph. Go away, said Ralph crossly, because he did not like to eat food, crawling with ants, and because it embraced him to be seen in such a predicament. The ants left as silently as they had come. When Ralph had eaten his full of the apple core, he curled up beside the wait. When Ralph had eaten his full of the apple, he curled up beside the core. He only hoped that someone might happen to drop a Kleenex over him. It was bad enough to be carrying to one don't I can't say right. Carry to one doom in a wastebasket, but to be carried to one doom by a streaking maid was unthinkable. There was one tiny ray of hope. If someone did happen to drop a Kleenex over him, he just might have the chance to jump and run when the maid tipped the basket up to empty it into the incinerator. The thought that the boy was sure to miss his motorcycle and start looking for it kept Ralph tossing and turning behind the apple core until suffered and exhaustion he finally fell asleep. So we're going to do chapter 4. Kenneth. Ralph did not know how much time had passed before he was awakened by the lamp on the bedside table shining down on him. He sneezed himself into the tiniest position tiniest possible ball. Wrapped his tail around his body and tried to make himself as thin as an apple core. My motorcycle, shouted the boy the very first thing. Somebody stolen my motorcycle. Oh, oh, thought Ralph. It wouldn't be long now. Nobody's stolen your motorcycle, answered the boy's mother from 216. It's around someplace. You just misplaced it. You could find it in the morning. You had better get ready for bed now. No, I don't misplaced it. Instead, the boy, I put it right here on the table beside my sports car. You will find it in some place, said his mother, not much interest. Boys will always lose things. While Ralph cowered behind the apple core, Kenneth opened the drawer of the bedside table and slammed it shut. He jerked back the bedspread and yanked the pillows off the bed and threw them back. Then he got down on his hands and knees and looked under the bed and the table. Ralph wrapped his tail more tightly around his body. Here it comes, he thought. The boy's face appeared in the opening at the top of the wastebasket. Ralph's heart raced like a motor. Ha, said the boy to himself, here it is. I wonder how it got there. His hands came down into the wastebasket to seize the motorcycle and lift it out. Still leaning over the wastebasket, he examined the bent handlebars and the chipped paint. That's funny, he remarked aloud. It must have rolled off, but I don't see how it could. The boy did the nature thing for a boy to do. He looked into the wastebasket again. Ralph closed both eyes tight and waited. He wished he had not eaten so much of the apple core. If he had not been so greedy, the core would have been thick and he would have been thinner. Hey, whispered the boy, obviously very much surprised. How did you get in here? He said carefully to keep his voice lower than the sound of the breeze in the pines outside the window. Ralph did not move. He was grateful to the boy for not touching the apple core, even though it was ready to no precision at all. Piss, whispered the boy. Are you asleep? Still Ralph remained motionless, except for a slight quiver of his whiskers, which he was unable to control. The boy was silent, but the mouse could feel the rhythm draft of the breathing. The boy must be thinking, but what was he thinking? That was what was what was worrying Ralph. No, said the boy to himself. No, it couldn't be. Couldn't be what? One wondered Ralph, who was beginning to feel cramped from crouching behind the apple core. Hey, wake up, whispered the boy. That was the last thing Ralph wanted to do. Come on, pleaded the boy. I won't hurt you. Ralph, cons- Ralph considered. After all, what did he have to lose? If he stayed in the wastebasket, he was almost certain to get dumped into the incinerator. He might as well come out from behind the core. If he did, he might find some opportunity to escape. Certainly, he moved his head from his paws and opened one eye. The boy was smiling down at him. Encouraged, Ralph opened the other eye and lifted his head. That's the stuff, encouraged the boy. Now come on, tell me, did you or didn't you? Did you tell me? Did you or didn't you ride my motorcycle off the bedside table? This took Ralph by surprise. He had not expected the boy to guess what happened. Well, yes, I guess you might say I did, confused Ralph, rubbing his aching muscles. I thought so. Neither the mouse nor the boy was the least bit surprised that each could understand the other. Two creatures who shared a love for motorcycles naturally spoke in the same language. That must have been some accident. Did it hurt? Oh, some, answered Ralph with a display of bravery. Anyways, I didn't exactly ride it. I really coast off. The telephone rang and startled me. Now, how about getting me out of here? Just a minute, said the boy. How did you get up here in the first place? Climbed, stupid, on the telephone cord. Ralph instantly regretted his ruthlessness. He had better watch his tongue if he expected any in, help in escaping from the wastebasket. Oh, of course, said the boy. Apologies, I should have thought of that myself. At the moment there came a quick knock on the door to room 215 and the rattle of a key. Help, cried Ralph. The maid didn't let her see me. Before the boy could do anything, the maid burst into the room. Oh, excuse me, she seemed. I'm surprised to see a boy kneeling by the wastebasket. I've come to turn down the bed. That's all right, said the boy quickly. I can do it myself. Thanks anyways. Thank you, said the maid, backing out of the room. Ralph knew she was not excited to waste to waste time turning down the bed. As soon as she finished her duties, she was going out to the parking lot to meet a busboy, college boy whose job was clearing tables in the dining room. Whew, that was close. The boy seemed every bit as relieved as Ralph. I say, agreed the mouse. Kenneth called his mother from 216. Are you getting ready for bed? Sort of, answered Kenneth. You better come in our bedroom and take a bath, said his mother. Aw, geez, Mom, do I gotta? Asked Kenneth. Yes, you do, said his father. And don't forget to brush your teeth, said his mother. I won't, promised Kenneth. Then he whispered to Ralph, you just lie low and I'll hurry and take a bath and get into bed and turn off the lights, and after Mom comes and kisses me good night, we can talk some more. Lay low indeed. Ralph was indulged. He couldn't lie much lower if he wanted to, and he certainly did not want to sit around waiting to talk. He wanted to get out of that wastebasket. Once he was out, he would see about talking, but not before. Ralph could hear the boy splashing in 216's bathtub, and then hastily brushed his teeth in 215 wasteman. After this, there was the sound of a suitcase being opened and closed, dropped on the floor. The boy hopped into bed, and to Ralph's relief, the lights was turned out. In a moment, Miss Greeley came in to kiss her son good night. Good night, Mom, said the boy. sounding as if he were already drowsy. "Good night," Kenneth said his mother. "It looked as if we're going to have to stay here for a few days." Your father refused to budge. "That's okay," muttered Kenneth, giving the impression he. "Good boy," said his mother. "You're a good sport." "Good night, son," said the boy's father from the doorway beneath the two rooms. Kenneth did not answer. Instead, he breathed slowly and deeply, as Ralph thought a bit too noisy. There was no sense in overdoing things. As soon as all was quiet in the next room, the boy swung his legs out of bed, fumbling around in the suitcase, and shone a flashlight into the wastebasket. Almost blinded by the inspecting light, Ralph held his paws over his eyes. He cut that out. "Hey, cut that out." He could not remember to be polite. "Oh, sorry." The boy laid the flashlight on the bed where it beamed shone across the wastebasket rather than into it. "That's better," said Ralph. "Now how about getting me out of here?" And as an afterthought he added, "Please." The boy ignored the mouse request. "How would you like to ride my motorcycle?" he asked. Ralph's heart skipped a beat like a motor missing on one cylinder. The mouse-sized motorcycle really would run after all, and there was one thing certain: since the motorcycle really would run, the boy could not expect him to ride around the bottom of a wastebasket. "Sure," Ralph tried to sound calm. "The important thing was to get out of this prison." He braced himself, dreading the touch of the boy's hand on his fur. To Ralph's surprise, the boy did not reach in and grab him. Instead, he slowly and gently tipped the wastebasket on the side, permitting Ralph to walk to freedom with pride and dignity. "Thanks," said Ralph gently. "Grateful for this consideration. I believe you, okay?" "Sure, I'm okay," said the boy, sitting his motorcycle down beside Ralph. "Did you think I wasn't?" "You never can tell," Ralph said, his paws on the handlebars of the motorcycle. "It was a real beauty, even with a bent handlebar." I sure sorry about that." "Forget it," said the boy, refusingly. "It wouldn't hurt much. The motorcycle will still run." Ralph threw his legs over the motorcycle and settled himself comfortably in the seat. "Perfectly, just perfect." The boy was obviously delighting that his motorcycle was just right, was just right for a mouse. Ralph could not have agreed more heartily. It was perfect, except for one thing: he did not know how to start it. "Well, go on," said the boy. "Write it." Ralph was ashamed to confess his ignorance. "I don't know how to start it," he admitted. "It's the first motorcycle I had ever had a chance to ride. You have to make a noise," the boy explained matter-of-factly. "These cars don't go unless you make noise." The answer was so obvious Ralph was disgusted with himself for not knowing without asking. He grasped the hand grips and, fearful lest his nose to be so squeaky, imagine a pew, 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 pew. Sure enough, the motorcycle moved. It was really and truly moving across the threadbare bar carpet. Ralph was so excited that he promptly forgot to make the noise. The motorcycle stopped. Ralph started it again. Pew, 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 pew. This time he remembered to keep on making the noise. He sped off into the square of moonlight on the carpet and found a good threadbed spot without any bumps. "Look out for your tail," said the boy. "Don't let it get caught in that spoke." "Thanks for reminding me," he said. Ralph, crushing the motorcycle to stop. He started it again and steered with one paw while he reached back with the other, caught up his tail and handed the tip safely against the handlebar. It was a glorious sensation, speeding around on the carpet freely and noisily, and most of all, fast. Ralph discovered that if he made the noise faster, the motorcycle speeded up. If he slowed the sound, the motorcycle slowed down. He permanently speeded up and raced around in the rectangle of the moonlight, where he made another discovery. When he ran out of breath, the moment of the motorcycle carried him out until he could take another breath. Gee, you're lucky, whispered the boy. In order to answer, Ralph had to stop. I am. If it had never occurred to him that a mouse could be luckier than a boy. You sure are, the boy spoke with feeling. My mother would never let me ride a motorcycle. She would say I might break a leg or something like silly like that. Well, if you want to come right down to it, said Ralph, I don't suppose my mother would be as crazy about the idea. He began to have uneasily feeling that he really should be getting back to the mouse hole. Anyway, said the boy gloomily, it will be years and years before I am old enough to ride a motorcycle, and then when I am old enough, my mother wouldn't let me. Ralph really felt sorry for the boy, hampered as he was by his youth and his mother. Go on, ride it some more, said the boy. I like to watch. Pew, 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 pew. Ralph started the motorcycle again and rode around in the moonlight once more, faster and faster until he was dizzy from circling, dizzy with excitement, dizzy with the joyous speed. Never mind the danger. Never mind what his mother thought. This was living. This was what he wanted to do. On and on and on. Luckily, whispers the boy with envy in his voice. Ralph did not answer. He did not want to stop. Dun, dun, dun. End of chapter 3 and 4. Part 3 of The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. Come back next Friday for part 4, and it's going to be chapter 5 and maybe 6. So thank you for watching and listening to this continuation of The Mouse and the Motorcycle on my YouTube channel, Tins of Vlogspots. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.